What or who inspires you? You know, we can be inspired by the sacraments, we can be inspired by the Word of God, we can be inspired by other people, and we can be inspired by our own hearts because God dwells within our hearts. So there's many things that can inspire us. And so what a blessing it is. Now, one person who inspired me was my grandma. And I remember, it's interesting what we remember. I remember my grandma praying the rosary. And I just remember her doing it once or twice, but there's an image of my grandma sitting in her chair praying the rosary. And what a blessing that was to witness that. But my grandma just didn't pray the rosary to inspire me. She was very kind, not only to me, but to other people. In other words, she was like Christ to me and to other people. In the first reading from the Book of Wisdom, we have the reminder of the Exodus, the people who were in slavery being set free and led to the promised land. And even as God is leading the people through the wilderness and they're grunting and groaning and complaining, God is continuously showing them tender care. And really it's about the people trusting in God and that God is with them and that God will always be with them. It's not that God is absent, but we, or like the Israelite people, become absent to God. In the second reading, the letter to the Hebrews, we can be inspired by Abraham and Sarah in order to help us to trust in God and also to have faith in God. Abraham and Sarah, they left their homeland to an unknown land. They didn't even know where they were going. And then, they are to have a child in their old age. Their descendants are going to be as numerous as the stars in the sky or the sand on the seashore. Now, they will not get to actually witness this promise, and yet they trust it. And then we have when Abraham is going to sacrifice Isaac. Now, it's not that God is asking Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. He's asking him to sacrifice his own will. And also, it's really an encouragement and a reminder that we are to put God first in our lives, even before the preciousness of family. In the gospel reading, we can break this gospel reading up into three parts. The first part is do not be anxious or do not be afraid. There's many things that can cause anxiety within our own hearts. There could be our health, it could be climate change, it could be technology, it could be the war in Ukraine, it could be COVID-19, monkeypox. There's many different things that can make us anxious or that we can be afraid of. But we are to not be afraid. In other words, we are to focus our attention on God. We transcend all these fears, all these things that cause anxiety, and we place our trust in a loving and a tender God. Now, the second part of the gospel encourages us to be watchful and vigilant. We might look at this part of the text as being part of the end times or else the second coming of Christ. But really, we've been waiting for 2,000 years and Christ is present with us. So it's really to be vigilant and watchful for Christ in our midst. And Christ always shows up in the simple and ordinary way, like somebody praying or somebody being kind to someone else, and how important that is. Now, the last part of the gospel reading is for us to be good stewards. As we are letting go of our fears, as being watchful and vigilant of the presence of God in our lives, then we are to be encouraged and we are to be good stewards. In other words, we are to ask to be like Christ for others, especially those who have fallen away from the faith or those who don't know Christ, how important that is. And so as we gather around the table, Lord, once again, we can be inspired by our God. Our beloved Son becomes present to us, to nourish us, to assure us that God is with us. And what a blessing it is so that we can be an inspiration for the people in our lives and we can be a source of encouragement for the people that we encounter.